and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I will be teaching you how to make yet another crochet summer top, and probably for this season this is going to be the last one, but no matter what, I hope that you will enjoy it. And here is the actual top that I'm going to teach you in this video, which is actually the same that I'm wearing right now, and I couldn't be happier with how it turned out, and I hope that you will really like it as well. As always, I have made sure that this tutorial is as beginner friendly as possible, so I'm really going into as much detail as I can with every single stitch and every single step to make sure that everyone is able to replicate this top. Besides that, I have also prepared a written version of this pattern, which is linked down below in the description box, and it's available for purchase on my Etsy store, so your support of course will be super appreciated. Otherwise, if you have any questions, then just feel free to reach out in the comment section below and I will try to help you from there. But now, without further ado, let's jump into it. Here are the materials that I will be using. Here I have 4 different colors of cotton yarn, which is 4 ply. And here I have some more specs just in case if you are interested in this particular brand. And of course you will also need a crochet hook. For this project I'm using 3mm hook, and you will also need scissors as well as some stitch markers. So now let's jump into the project. First I will be starting with this darker blue color, and our first step will be to do a magic ring. So for that I'm grabbing yarn and tying it around my fingers like this to create an X shape here. Then I'm taking my crochet hook and going underneath the first piece of yarn that I have here and grabbing the second piece with my hook and pulling it through to establish a loop on my hook. And now we have created magic ring, we just have to secure it, and for that I will just be doing 3 chains. So 1, 2 and 3. And now we have created magic ring as well as 3 chains, and in this case these 3 chains also count as 1 double crochet. So just keep that in mind that this is actually a stitch. And now we can proceed further with next steps. So the next step would be to actually do 6 double crochets inside this magic ring, and we just have to make sure that all of these stitches will be covering both pieces of yarn that we have here. So let's do 6 double crochets. So for double crochet you have to yarn over, then go through the magic ring, grab yarn and pull up a loop to have 3 loops on your hook, then yarn over and go through the first 2. After that yarn over again and go through the second pair of 2 loops. So this is 1 double crochet, and now we basically technically have 2 stitches here, so now it's left to do 5 more, so we have 7 in total. So let's do another one together. So first I'm yarning over, then going through the magic ring, grabbing yarn and pulling up to have 3 loops, then yarning over and pulling through 2, yarning over and pulling through 2 again, like this. So proceed until you have 7 double crochets in total, which include 1 chain of 3. So 1 chain of 3 and 6 double crochet stitches inside this magic ring. So here I have done all 7 stitches, so 6 double crochets and 1 chain of 3. And now we can also use our stitch marker and mark it in the very middle of these stitches. So in this case we will mark it at the 4th stitch, so starting to count from the chain of 3. This is 1, 2, 3 and 4th. So the 4th one here is the very middle, so inside there I'm just leaving my stitch marker like this by going through both pieces or both loops of this stitch. So I'm just leaving it in here, and it's going to be very helpful during the following round. And now, since we have completed all the stitches for this round, we can also close this magic ring. And to do that, I'm basically just going to pull this loose piece of yarn that I have here, and as I'm pulling it you can see that the ring here in the middle is closing. And with this we have also established like a nice and cute triangle-alike shape. So now we can proceed with the second round, and for the second round we are going to use the same color, and to proceed further we first have to chain 3. So 1, 2 and 3 like this. And this chain of 3 is also going to count as 1 double crochet, so just keep that in mind. And once we have completed it, we can actually turn our work and proceed with the second round. So for the second round, we will again be doing double crochets, and in the first 3 stitches that we have here, so 1, second one, and the third one, we are just doing double crochets up until we reach the stitch marker. And here in the very beginning, we technically have 2 stitches because this chain of 3 is going to count as 1. So whenever we are starting and finishing round, we have to do 2. However, now we have reached this stitch marker here, so we can actually remove it, because now we know that in this stitch where we had it, we will basically have to do 5 double crochets all in the same space. So I'm just proceeding with doing that and adding 5 double crochet stitches inside this same space. So here I'm already working on the third one, and now also completing the fourth, and then also the fifth one, which is our final one, like this. And then now that we have added all these stitches, we can again put our placeholder back, and in this case we are putting it here in the middle of the 5 double crochets, so inside the third stitch that we completed from these 5. So I'm just putting my placeholder through the third stitch here and just closing it. And now we can proceed with finalizing this second round and doing double crochet inside each space. So this is one, and then also in the second one, like this. And now we have reached the very last stitch here. So in the last one, we are doing 2 double crochets together in the same space. So I'm just doing that in here. So this is one, and then also adding a second one inside the very same stitch, like this. So now we have completed the second round as well. So now we can proceed with the third round, and for that I'm going to use this white color. So first we basically just have to change our color of the yarn that we are using, and to do that we actually have to go one step back. So instead of completing this stitch with the blue color, I'm just removing the last yarn over like this and having 2 loops on my hook, and then we can grab the new color that we have here, which in my case is the white one, and I will be attaching it to the current yarn that we are using. So just taking this white one and tying it around to create a secure knot like this, and then I'm just pushing this knot closer to the hook like that and making sure that it's secure. And then I'm again completing this very last stitch by using this white color here like that. And now we are just continuing to use the white color, and since we are done with the blue color, at least for now, I can also cut off yarn here. So just grabbing my scissors and cutting it off, since for now we will just be using the white and blue will be used later on. So now we can proceed with the third round, and third round is basically going to be the same as the second one. We are just starting with 3 chains, so 1, 2 and 3. Then we are just turning our work, and in the very first one we are also adding 1 double crochet. So whenever we are starting or ending, we have to start with 2 double crochets like this, and then we are just doing 1 double crochet inside every single stitch up until we are reaching the stitch marker that is left in the very middle of this triangle. So here I have reached the stitch marker again, so now I'm again just removing it, and inside this stitch where we had it, we are again adding 5 double crochets. So I'm just proceeding with doing that, which is exactly the same thing as we did during the second round before, like this. And now, since we have done these stitches for this piece, we are again grabbing the stitch marker and just placing it in the third or the middle stitch from these 5, just as we did before, and then again proceeding with adding 1 double crochet on top of every single stitch until we reach the end of this round, where we will be doing 2 double crochets together in the same space. So here I am at the very end, and in this last stitch, which actually in this case is a chain of 3 that we did in the very beginning, I'm just doing 2 double crochets both together in the same space like this. So now also round 3 is finalized. So now we can proceed with the 4th round, and for that we are first again chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and then turning our work. And for this round we will have slightly different process, since we will be doing a different stitch, which would be a puff stitch. So I will teach you how to do that. In the first stitch that we have here, we are again doing just 1 double crochet like this, and then after that we are chaining 1, and because we have chained 1 we are also skipping 1, and then in the following one we are doing our very first puff stitch. So for that we are yarning over and then going through this stitch, grabbing yarn and pulling up and kind of extending it like this, then yarning over again and going through this same stitch again, grabbing yarn and pulling up and again extending like this, and then repeating it for 1 more time like that. So after we have done this extension 3 times, we should have 7 loops on our hook, and then we are starting to complete this puff stitch, so yarning over and going through all 7 loops that we have on our hook like this. So now this puff stitch, very first one that we have created, is done, and we can just chain 1 like this, and because we chained 1 we are again skipping 1, and in the next one we are doing another puff stitch. So 3 times we are yarning over and pulling the yarn through and extending it. So this is 1, then doing it for the 2nd time, and then also for the 3rd time like this, to have 7 loops on our hook, then yarning over and pulling it through all the loops. And as this stitch is completed, we are just chaining 1, then skipping 1 and proceeding with the next stitch, and in there doing the very same thing by pulling the yarn through and extending it 3 times to have 7 loops, then yarning over and going through all like that, and then just chaining 1. And then we are adding 1 more puff stitch in here right before the stitch marker that we have in the very middle like this. So I'm just quickly completing this stitch like this, and then also chaining 1, and now we have reached the stitch marker here. So now I can remove it and just taking it out from here. And now, since we actually did this chain of 1 right after the puff stitch, we will actually have to do 3 double crochets inside this stitch where we had the stitch marker. So I'm just starting to do the very first one. So this is 1, and then doing the 2nd one, and then also the 3rd one. So in this case, since we have those chains right after the puff stitches, we will only have to do 3 double crochets. And now we can take back our stitch marker, and we are just placing it in the middle stitch, so the 2nd one from these 3 that we just did. And now we can just mirror everything also on the other side. So since we here ended with 1 chain, we first have to start with also 1 chain, and then we are proceeding further. So in this case we are not skipping 1 stitch just because we have to match the other side. So I'm adding 1 puff stitch right away, right after these double crochet stitches that we just did. And after that again chaining 1, and from now on we can proceed as we did before by when we chain 1 then we also skip 1. So I just skipped 1 and started to add puff stitch in the following stitch there, and then we are just continuing doing the same until we reach the very last stitch. So here I am 2 stitches away from completing this round. So after doing this puff stitch we have chained 1, so we are skipping 1, and then we just have this very last one, and in there we are doing 2 double crochets. So doing 1 and then also adding the second one. And now we are also ready to change our color, so let's do that so we can proceed with the fifth round. So I will be changing color to this lighter green, and therefore since we are changing color, I haven't completed completely this very last stitch. But again, for the color change, it's the same process as it was before. I'm grabbing yarn and then just tying it around the current color that I was using, and just making sure that I'm creating secure knot here. And then this knot, I'm just pushing it closer to the hook here, like that. And now I can complete the very last stitch that I left halfway through. And for that, now I'm going to use this new color here. So just doing that and completing this stitch. So now we have completed completely the fourth round as well as changed color, and because of that we can also cut off this white color since we won't use it for now, at least, like that. And now we are proceeding with the fifth round, and actually for the fifth and sixth round we will just be doing regular rounds just with double crochets. So you can technically just repeat what you did during the second and third round. So just do that, and then I will meet you back again once we will have completed both fifth and sixth round. So just starting with chain of 3 and then proceeding with doing double crochet on top of every single stitch until you reach the stitch marker. And then in the stitch marker you again have to do 5 double crochets and leave the stitch marker in the very middle stitch, and then do double crochets on the other side, and in the very last one do 2 double crochets in the same space together, and then just repeat that same process for another round. So I will meet you back again once you have done it. So here I have completed round 5 and 6, and I have also managed to change back color to this darker blue, and it's already attached here. So now we can proceed with round 7, and for that we again have to start with chain of 3, so 1, 2 and 3, and then we are also doing double crochet in the very first stitch here, so it counts as 2 that we are starting with. And from now on the step will be slightly different, so slightly different stitch during this round. So basically we are doing the same double crochet, but our stitches will be looped through the one round before. So now the double crochet that I'm doing, instead of looping it through this stitch, which is the next one, I will actually be looping it through the stitch below that one. So same stitch but one round behind. So going through that one, extending this loop a little bit, and then just completing double crochet as we would normally do. And after that, in the next one that we have here, I'm just doing a regular double crochet, and then again the following one is the extended one, which is going through the previous round, so one round below, and double crochet is done in there like this. So this is the stitch that we are doing during this round. So one of them is regular, and then the following one is being looped one round below the stitch that is next one, like this. So, and then I'm just proceeding with doing the same, and one is normal and then one is extended from around below, like this. So this is how it looks so far, and you basically have to repeat doing the same thing until you reach the stitch marker, and that's where I will meet you back again. So here I am, basically 2 stitches away from the stitch marker. So in the following we are just doing the regular double crochet like this, and then in the next one we again have this extended one, which is going through this very middle of the triangle that we have here, and there I'm just doing the extended one like this. So now we have also reached the stitch marker again, so I'm removing it, and then we just have to add in again 5 double crochets inside this very same stitch. So proceeding with doing basically 5 double crochet increase in this very top stitch that we have here in this triangle shape, like this. So this is how it looks so far, and then I'm just grabbing the stitch marker again and placing it inside the middle of these 5, so the third one from both sides, And then we are starting this side by doing the extended stitch, which is going through the same space as on the other side. And then after that we are moving further with doing a regular double crochet in the next one. So basically here it's the same process. So this is how it looks so far. So just keep on doing it here until you reach the end. Here I am at the end of the 7th round. So as you can see, I ended it with one of these extended ones, and then in the last stitch we again had 2 double crochets together in the same space. And now we can proceed with round 8, and round 8 is basically going to be one of these regular ones, just as we had during round 5th and 6th. So just make additional one where we don't have anything special, just double crochets all the way around. So do that, and then I will meet you back again once this 8th round is finalized as well. So here also round 8 is finalized, and this is how it looks so far. And now I have also managed to change color. In this case I'm changing it to this lighter blue. And now for the round 9 we are basically doing the same as we did during round 8. We are just doing regular round with just double crochets all the way around. So just add one more round where we don't have any special stitches and use this new color. So now also round 9 is finalized, and this is how our project looks so far. So with these rounds that we have created at the moment, we have also gone through all the stitches, all the colors, and all the rounds that we will be using for this project. And this is basically our pattern that we will use throughout this project. So basically now for the following rounds, what you have to do is just repeat the stitches that we did starting from the 3rd round until the 9th round, and then add as many rows or rounds as you need to create this triangle shape in the size that will fit you the best. For size small, in total I will be doing approximately 20 rows, and to go a size up you would basically have to add 2 additional rounds. So for size medium I would be doing 22, and for large 24. Otherwise, if you're not sure how many rounds are needed for your size, the easy way is basically to create as many rounds as you wish and then measure it around your bust to see how well it fits you. Here I have created all 20 rows that I needed for my size, and this is how my project looks so far. So now I'm able to proceed with row 21, and of course I will be using this darker blue color, and basically I will be just following the same pattern that I have here that I used for this color, following the pattern that I have for this project, and I will just do the regular stitches as I would normally do up until I reach this point here. So this is where I will meet you back again. Otherwise, for now I'm just continuing as I should according to all the stitches that I'm using for this project. Here I have done all the stitches on this side, and now I have basically reached the very tip here where I have 5 double crochets together in this one space. So this is where we are kind of switching the process a little bit for this row at least. And here we will first start by doing in this first stitch here 1/2 double crochet. So for that you have to yarn over, then go through the stitch, grab yarn and pull up to have 3 loops, then yarn over and go through all the loops on your hook like this. So that's 1/2 double crochet that goes in the first one of these 5. Then in the following 3 we are doing 1 single crochet in each. So going through the stitch, grabbing yarn to have 2 loops on your hook, then yarning over and going through both of them. So this is 1, then doing the same inside the second stitch that we have, and then also the same in the 3rd one. So 3 single crochets in total like this. And then in the last 5th one here we are doing 1/2 double crochet again. So yarning over, going through the stitch, grabbing yarn, 3 loops, yarning over and going through all of them like this. So now we have completed this tip here, and after that we can proceed with the same stitches that we had in here. So I'm just going to do a couple of them together with you just so you can see, because we will also have to place in some stitch markers so we know what to do during the following rounds. So here I'm just completing a couple of stitches here on this side, just so we have some more stitches and we are able to actually place in stitch markers like this. So this is how this tip looks at the moment, and also I did a couple of stitches here, and now we can place markers so it's easier for us to recognize what we have to do during the following rounds. So in this case we will be placing markers on the third double crochet from this middle. So here we have our last half double crochet, and then we are just counting the third one from here. So 1, 2, and 3. So this is the third one, and in there I'm putting one stitch marker on this side, and then I'm also doing the same on this side. So this is our first, then second and third. So in the third one I'm just placing this marker in here like this. So this is how it's supposed to look with markers already placed in the stitches, and after that you are just proceeding with the same process as before and just completing this row also on this side. So I will meet you back again once we are done with this row here. Here I have also finished this row on the other side here, and I already started to work on the following row. So in my case this is row 22nd, and for that one I just have to do regular double crochets on top of every single stitch, and I will be doing that until I reach this very first stitch marker here. So this is where I will meet you back again, since we will have to do some different stitches and different steps throughout process here. So I will meet you there, and otherwise I'm just continuing with doing double crochets on top of every single stitch here until I meet the first stitch marker. So here I have done all my double crochets on this side, and I have also reached the first stitch marker here. So now I can actually remove it. So I'm just taking it out, and I can also place it in the stitch here that we are currently having on this row that we are working on. So we just have to place it here, and then after that we can continue with the stitches that we have to do here. So in this first one where we had the stitch marker, we just have to do 1/2 double crochet. So I'm just doing that in here like this, and then after that we are just doing single crochets up until we reach the second stitch marker. So just proceed with doing single crochet stitches, one inside every single stitch that you have here, until you reach the second stitch marker on the other side that we have here on this row. So this is the last one, and this is how it looks so far. So here I have this second stitch marker, so I can take it out and just leave it here. And then in this stitch where we had it, we are again doing 1/2 double crochet like this, and then we are just doing 1 double crochet in the next stitch like that, and that's where we are also placing this second stitch marker. So I'm just putting it here inside this stitch, so it's in the same position as on the other side, as you can see here. And then after that, once it's done, we are just proceeding with doing again regular double crochet stitches, one in each, until we have finished also this row on this side. And as always, remember to do 2 double crochets in the very last stitch. So here I have completed also the row 22nd, and now I'm starting with row 23. And as you can see, I have also switched the color. So according to the pattern, we are starting to use this color, and for that I'm also doing just regular double crochets on top of every stitch, and I will just be doing that until I reach this very first stitch marker to show you the process that we have to do starting from this row. And also, just so you note, starting from this row, the following rows will be the same. So here I have reached the very first stitch marker, and I have completed the last stitch before it. So again, I can just remove it and leave it aside. And now inside this stitch where we had it, we are just doing 3 double crochets, and all of them will be in the same space in here. So I'm already adding the second one, and then also the third one. So this is the process that we will have to do for all the stitches where we have these placeholders in. And now that we have completed these 3, we can actually take our placeholder and place it in the middle stitch from these 3. So the second one from both sides basically. So I'm just adding it inside here. And with this stitch marker that now it's placed in here, we know that during next round when we reach it, that's where we will again be doing 3 double crochets inside the same space. Otherwise now we are just continuing doing 1 double crochet inside every stitch until we reach the second stitch marker that is sitting on the other side here. So now again I have reached the second stitch marker, so the process is the same. I'm just removing it and putting it aside, and then doing 3 double crochets inside this stitch where we had the stitch marker in. So again, completing all these 3 stitches inside this one space like this, and then grabbing my stitch marker again and placing it in the middle stitch from these 3 basically. So in this case it is the second one from both sides. And this is how it looks so far with both stitch markers in during this round. And after that again we are just proceeding with doing 1 double crochet inside every stitch, and then in the last one we are again doing 2 as always when ending a row. And in total with these 3 double crochet increases on both sides where we have stitch markers, you would basically have to do 5 rows in total. So this is my first row, and after that I would be adding 4 more. So just continue with this process and make sure that you are adding 5 rows in total. Otherwise, as you are adding these rows and have also completed all 5, just feel free to measure if this size actually fits you and how it goes around your bust and front side of your body. And if you feel like you can add easily extra rows to just increase the size, so it's totally up to you, and this pattern is very flexible in that sense. Here I have prepared all of these last 5 rows, and this is how this main part of this top looks so far. And now we are actually done with this part, so what we can do is fasten off. So here I have completed the very last stitch, and to fasten off all we have to do is just chain 1 like this, then make the loop a little bit longer, and after that I'm just grabbing my scissors and cutting off yarn. And as it's cut off, we can tighten it like this just by pulling this loose piece of yarn here. So now the main part of this top is ready and we can move further. So the next step would be to add some extra rows here at the very bottom to make our top longer also in this way. And for that, we will just start working on those stitches. But first, before we do that, we just have to figure out which is the right side. So in my case, the right side that will be facing outwards is this one. So I will just make sure that before starting working on these rows, that it's facing up, and then we are just flipping our work so we are able to start adding rows from this point here. And the first color that I will be using will be this lighter green that we have here in between as one row for the main part. And then our next step basically is to attach this yarn or this color here in the very beginning. And I will be doing that in here right below the stitch that we have. So on the side of this row that we have here. And then I'm just grabbing yarn and looping it through like this. And also making sure that this loose piece of yarn that we have from the row that we just finished on the side is hidden underneath. And then after that, I'm just making a secure knot to make sure that this yarn won't untie, and just tightening it as much as I can. And then we can proceed with doing stitches here on the bottom of these rows basically. And what we will be doing is just doing very basic double crochet stitches. And before we start, we just have to pull up a loop like this and then chain 3. So 1, 2 and 3. And as always, this chain of 3 is going to count as 1 double crochet. After that, we can proceed with doing double crochet stitches here at the bottom, and we will basically be doing 1 to 2 double crochet stitches on top of every single row. And this basically means that I will be adding stitches here in the, like this is the next space where I will add one, and then the following one would be in between the rows. Then again I'm going on top of the row, and then again in between the rows. So it's kind of 1 to 2. And while I will be doing these stitches, I will also make sure that I'm hiding all these loose pieces of yarn or these loose ends that I have here underneath the stitches, to make sure that we don't have to do that at the very end. But now let's just start doing that, and I will show you. So here I'm doing the first double crochet in here. As I'm doing it, I'm hiding these loose ends underneath, and the first one goes on top of this row here. Then after that I'm proceeding with the next stitch, and that one is going into here in between the rows. And as I'm doing it, I'm also hiding the loose ends here. So loose ends are always hidden constantly below all the stitches that we are doing. And then after that, again proceeding with the one stitch on top of the side of the row that we have, and then the following one is again in between the rows. So this is the process of the first row that we are doing here on the side so far. And as you can see, with every single stitch, I'm also making sure that loose ends are hidden underneath. So here I have completed already a couple of stitches here, and if you look at the back, this is how it looks from here. And as you can see, everything is hidden smoothly. So basically this is the process for establishing base for starting adding rows here at the bottom. So just repeat this process all the way through until you reach the other end here. And then I will meet you back again to start working on the next row together with you, where we will be just starting with doing stitches on top of every single stitch, as well as we will change color. Here I'm done with this first row, and here I am at the very end. So basically just left one last stitch to do, and in this case I will do it here. So I'm just going through here and starting to work on my last stitch there. And since I will be changing color, I'm not finishing this stitch completely, but leaving it halfway through. And then the next color that I will be using is this darker blue. I'm kind of following this pattern, so we started with light blue, next two will be darker blue, then green, and then finally white. So I'm just changing color now, so we can proceed with the next row. And I'm just tying this yarn here around the current one, and then pushing the knot closer to the stitch or to the hook, and then tightening to make sure that it's secure. And then this stitch we are just finalizing with the new color that we have. And since we have switched colors and we won't be using this lighter blue anymore, I can just cut off this yarn and we are done with that. And then we can proceed with the second row. So for that, first, as always, we just have to chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm just flipping my work like this. And since this chain of 3 is going to count as one double crochet, we will be skipping the first stitch to make sure that we are not doing any accidental increases. So starting from the next stitch, which is this one, that's where we will just continue with double crochets. But here, as you can see, we have these 2 pieces of loose yarn since we cut it off. And now we also have to hide this. We are currently facing the back side, so in this case we will just hide yarn in the front. So I'm just keeping it in here and then starting to work on the very first stitch that I have here. I'm making sure that these 2 pieces are hidden in the front as I'm working on the stitches, and proceeding with adding double crochets on top of every single stitch. And as I mentioned in the very beginning, the first stitch that we had here that was skipped, to make sure that we don't do any accidental increases, and also to make sure that this side of these rows is more aligned and it looks a little bit smoother in that way. Otherwise, just continue with doing these double crochet stitches. We are not doing any special stitches, just regular rows with 1 double crochet on top of each other. So just keep on adding extra rows following the same process as I have just described, and in total you would have to add 7 rows, but if you wish, you are more than welcome to add more of them. Here I'm done with the second row, and this is how it looks so far. And now let's just start another row together so it's easier for you to understand what the process is. So once we have done the very last stitch, we can proceed with the next row, and in this case I'm going to keep on using the same color. So before we are turning our work, we just have to chain 3, so 1, 2 and 3, and then we can flip it on the other side like this, and we can proceed working on stitches here. So as I described before, since this chain of 3 counts as 1 double crochet and we don't want to do an increase here, we are actually skipping this very first stitch and starting to work in the next one. So in there we are adding our very first double crochet on here, and in this way, because we are skipping one, we will also make sure that this edge here is a little bit smoother and a little bit straighter. Otherwise, after that, we are just continuing with doing 1 double crochet on top of every single stitch, and just doing that until we reach the end of this row here. And once we get to the end here, when doing the very last stitch here, we will make sure to change our color to green, and then we are just repeating the same thing that we did just now, or what we are working on right at this moment, and that's basically the whole process. So now we are adding 1 more row of this darker blue, then we will do 2 rows of green, and then also 2 rows of white. So now I'm done with adding rows here at the bottom, so we can actually fasten off, and for that, as always, we are just chaining 1, then making this loop a little longer, grabbing scissors and cutting off yarn, and as it's cut off, we are just tightening to make sure it's secure like this. And once that's done, we can proceed with the next step, which would be to add a border all the way around this top, just to add like a nice touch. And while we will be doing that, we will also be leaving some holes for the straps that will be on the sides as well as here at the top. So let's proceed with that. And first, to get started, I'm just flipping my work like this, and I will be starting here from the very bottom here. And for adding the border, I will be using this darker blue, since it's kind of the most dominating color throughout this project. However, you can use whatever color you wish, of course. And then we can proceed with the next step, which would be to attach this yarn. And I'm just going to go through a random stitch here at the bottom at the rows that we just added, and I'm just going through the stitch with my hook, then grabbing yarn and pulling it through, and then just making sure that I'm attaching it by creating a secure knot like this. And then we can proceed further, and our first step is just to pull up a loop like this and chain 1, and this chain of 1 is going to count as 1 single crochet, and then after that we are just adding 1 single crochet inside every single stitch that we have here, and just doing 1 inside each and moving further to the next one. And while I'm adding these stitches, I'm also hiding the loose end that I have here, just to make sure that I don't have to spend any time at the end by weaving it in. So I'm just working my way through until I reach this corner here, and adding 1 single crochet inside every stitch that I have here. Then once I have reached the very last stitch, you can actually kind of like twist or work a little bit and start working in this first row here. So first I'm just doing 1 single crochet in here, and once that's done, I'm chaining 2 like this, and after that adding another single crochet inside this very same space like that. So we have kind of established a nice little loop where we will later on be able to put in our strap in here like that. And then we are just proceeding further on this side, and again, as we did with the rows here at the bottom, we are just adding 1 to 2 stitches on top of the side of every row. So here I'm just going in between the rows, and then the next single crochet is in the row, and then again in between the rows. So this is again the same process or very similar process as we had it before. Then once you have reached this very last row here, this is again where we are adding 1 single crochet. After that we are chaining 2, 1 and 2, and then adding another single crochet inside the same space. So here on this side we are creating 2 of these holes for the loops here, and it looks like that. And then after that we are proceeding further with doing single crochets here, and as you can see we are now having the regular stitches. So now the process is very similar as it was here at the bottom, and we are just adding 1 single crochet inside every single stitch. So just proceed with doing that, and you basically just have to keep on doing this until you reach the stitch marker here as well as the following one, and that's where I'm going to meet you back again, because that's where we are going to add another hole for the strap. Here I have completed this side with single crochets, and now I have reached this first stitch marker. So I'm first going to remove it like this, and then we can start working on adding a hole for the strap also here. So first I'm adding 1 single crochet inside there like that. After that chaining 2, 1 and 2, and then adding another single crochet inside the very same space like this. So here we have added another tiny hole for adding a strap here, and it's basically the same process as we had here on the side. And once that's done, we are just moving further with doing single crochets, again 1 in each stitch that we have here until we reach the second stitch marker. So from now on the process is basically the same. You just have to make sure to add hole here in the next stitch marker there. Then you're just keep on doing all the single crochets until you reach this side here, and you would have to add another hole here where we have the start with these rows on this side. So 1 would go here and then another one there, and after that you're just continuing to do single crochets also at the bottom until you reach the point where you started, and this is where you would have to connect this round and fasten off. So that's basically where I'm going to meet you back again. Here I have gone all the way around, and now I have reached the very beginning. It's just left for me to do 1 last stitch, so I'm just doing that, and then we can connect this round by doing a slip stitch here inside the first chain that we did here. So I'm just going through that one, then grabbing yarn and pulling it through, and then pulling it through the loop that I already had like this. And after that we can fasten off. So again just chaining 1, making the loop longer, grabbing scissors, cutting off yarn and tightening in a secure knot like this. So now our border for the top is added, and we can proceed further with adding straps. And first I will be starting with adding straps here at the top of this top for the neck part, and for that again I will be using the same color of darker blue, and in total we will have to measure 5 pieces of yarn where each of them is approximately 1 meter long. However, if you wish, you are more than welcome to make them longer, because it's always easier to shorten something instead of other way around. So here I have prepared all 5 pieces of yarn, and each of them is 1 meter long approximately, and now we can proceed with actually making this into a strap. So for that our first step is to grab our top, and here where we made a hole, that is where we are going to loop these pieces of yarn through. So now I'm just grabbing my crochet hook and going through this hole that we made here, and then grabbing all of these pieces of yarn. You just have to make sure that all the starting and end points of them are in the same position, and then I'm just grabbing them with my hook and pulling through this hole like this, and then I'm just pulling it through so the both ends of these pieces of yarn can actually meet like this. I'm just putting them together here, and then I'm just kind of pulling to make sure that both parts here through this hole are in an equal length like this. And once that's done, we can proceed with a next step that we would have here, and that would be that from these yarn pieces here, we would simply be making a braid. And first, before I proceed, here I just have one of my dumbbells. I'm just putting it here so nothing pulls or slips away. And then we can proceed with braiding this into a braid. So in total here we have 10 pieces of yarn, so we are going to divide them into 3, 4 and 3 again. So here I have 3, then I'm just getting 4 from this side here, so this is 4, and then I have 3 again. And after that we are just doing a very basic braid and making sure that it looks nice and smooth. And after once in a while you just make sure that nothing is tangled up, so just straighten these pieces and keep on braiding it until you reach the very end. So here I have completed my braid and I have reached the very end. So at the end I'm just making a knot to make sure that nothing unties or unravels like this. So this one braid is now completed, and basically you just have to do the same thing also here on the other side. So we have 2 of these that will be tied together around our neck for this top. So here I have prepared both of these straps, and now it's just one last step for us to do, basically to cut these ends in an equal length. And for that here I'm just putting them together knot to knot, and then grabbing my scissors and cutting them in a spot where all of them are in equal length like this. And as you can see, now it looks more or less super smooth and super neat. And after that we can proceed with adding the strap that will be here in the back, and it will be connecting both of these sides together through all of these holes here. And for that you would have to prepare 9 pieces of yarn, and each of them has to be at least 1 meter long. And as I said before, it's always better to prepare something that is longer, because then it's easier to always shorten it instead of other way around. And then we are just starting by making a knot here in the very beginning like this, and just tightening to make sure that it's secure and tight enough. And after that we can proceed with also braiding these pieces of yarn together. And I'm again going to use my dumbbell, and I'm just putting it here on the top of these pieces or loose ends that I have there, and then we can start braiding. So in this case, since we have 9 pieces of yarn, we are dividing it by 3, 3 and 3. So here I have split it in 3 equal parts already. And then after that we are just starting to braid it away all the way through until we reach the other end. And here I have completed my braid and also got to this end. So again here at the end we are making a secure knot to make sure that nothing unravels from this side, and then also just tightening it like this. And once that's done, we can also cut these ends to make sure that it looks a little bit neater. So now it's cut off, and as you can see, it's quite neat also on this side. So now this strap is finalized and we can attach it to our top. So I will just be doing that here in the back side. Here I have aligned how my top would look from the back, and then I'm just grabbing my strap. So first I'm going through this one at the top of one of the sides, and then once it's in, we are just pulling it a little bit further away, and then also weaving it through this side here like this. So now the strap is inside the top part, and then we are just making a cross here like this, and then also weaving it through the bottom like this, and then also doing the same here on the other side that I have here. So now this strap is also attached, and as we will be wearing this top, we would basically just tie together in whatever way you wish, but this would be how it would look once you are wearing it. Otherwise, we are now basically done with this top. It's just a few last bits to do, which would be to weave in all the loose ends. For myself, since I was weaving in everything as I was doing this project, it's basically this one last piece of yarn left. So for weaving in loose ends, I'm just using my crochet hook and going through the stitches that I have and just weaving this loose end of this yarn through the stitches in the back and hiding it in there. But otherwise, your top is prepared and we are done with this project. This is how this top looks on me, and I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. I really like the stitch as well as color combo, and it simply brings a lot of summery vibes. So that was basically it from me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this tutorial is going to be useful for you in case you are planning to recreate this top. And if you do, then please share it with me. I'm super curious to see what you are creating. Written version of this pattern is linked down below and available for purchase on my Etsy store, so of course your support will be super appreciated. And besides that, you can also join my membership here on YouTube to support my video creation and kind of motivate me with keep on going, so I would be more than happy to see you join that as well. And if you have any questions, then just feel free to reach out in the comment section below and I will try to help you from there. And if you have any fun ideas or requests for future videos, then just let me know and I will try to add that to my to-do list. Otherwise, if you did enjoy this video, then please give me a big thumbs up, and if you're new here, then please subscribe, and I will see you later. Bye!